world's oil exporting nations have agreed to a slight increase in output next month, and that's amid fears that a global recession will crimp demand. The Organization of the Oil Exporting Nations and its allies, which includes Russia, said on Wednesday that it will produce an additional 100,000 barrels a day from September. Now, this was the first OPEC Plus meeting since U.S. President Joe Biden visited Saudi Arabia last month. Now, Biden was urging the nation, which is the group's biggest oil producer, to start pumping more. Of course, Brent prices initially rose after the OPEC Plus decision to above $102 a barrel, but reversed course later to fall towards $96.5 a barrel. Crude has consistently traded at more than $100 a barrel since February, driving up the cost of living globally. Well, let's now take all this apart with Abhi Rajendran, the Director of Energy Intelligence Research, and he joins us now via Zoom. Great to have you on the show with us, Mr. Rajendran. Now, of course, it certainly looks like U.S. President Joe Biden's diplomatic efforts in Saudi Arabia didn't quite pay off. How much of an impact will adding 100,000 barrels a day of oil in September have on the market, or the inflationary squeeze of high oil prices right now? Do you agree with experts who say it's all just noise?
Yeah, no, first of all, thank you for having me. Certainly there was a lot of focus around, President Biden's trip to the Middle East, to Saudi Arabia in particular. And I think certainly the hope or the wish was that there would be more supply added, right, than what was announced from OPEC Plus the other day. Of just 100,000 barrels a day additional supply in September. So I think from that standpoint, I think the trip would have likely been seen as not yielding much in terms of additional output. But I think we pretty much expected this, right? In the days after the trip, you heard from multiple Saudi and OPEC Plus officials talking about how, despite the trip and despite asks from President Biden and the West, how the group would continue to look at the numbers, would continue to look at market dynamics, and prioritize, adding output in a way that made sense for the market, right, and not just because they were being asked to increase output. So I think the increase was obviously modest, certainly a slowdown from the 400,000 barrels a day of monthly increases from July and August. And I think, there was a slight increase, which maybe looks like it's, answering the call from the West and from the U.S. in particular to some degree, but also making sure that, this is about, keeping OPEC Plus together as well, of which, in particular, Russia is of course a key member. The one other thing I'd note is that, when OPEC Plus adds, meaningful amounts of supply, it's a confidence in demand. And when they slow that down, I mean, of course, 100,000 barrels a day is only a modest amount. It also raises questions around the demand outlook. And this is certainly something that we've been talking about for many months, that the demand outlook is looking quite soft and uncertain for the second half of the year, which I think is a large reason why oil prices have started to sell off, as soon as the announcement was made.
Well, another reason why some say this could be just a noise is that OPEC says it plans to divide that amount proportionally between its members. But some experts do believe just a fraction is likely to be delivered. So what are your thoughts? Is there a realistic expectation that OPEC producers can raise production given the realities on ground, especially in countries like Nigeria and Libya?
It's a great question, and we've seen OPEC Plus, underperform by 2.5 to 3 million barrels a day on its commitments, right, to add supply over the last 6 to 9 months. Cumulatively, that's where they've gotten to, right, in terms of how far they've been lagging. And I think it is it is exactly what you pointed out. It is a question around spare capacity and the ability for many of the members of OPEC Plus to be able to lift supply. And I think that ability is not there. Which is why I think there's, obviously, even the additions over July and August, in our view, are are going to underperform. And even the 100,000 barrel a day increase in September is likely to see a shortfall. We will see an increase from Saudi Arabia, but their allocation of the 100,000 barrels a day is only about 25,000. We'll see the UAE increase, but their allocation is only about 8,000 barrels a day. So very modest amounts from the members who really have the capacity to increase. And I think this is sort of the kind of the core issue that OPEC Plus is facing at the moment as it thinks about later this year and next year, which is that most of the members have little to zero spare capacity left. What's left is really concentrated within a few members, and even they don't want to maximize their spare capacity because they always want to keep a little bit extra in case there's a market shock, as we've seen over the last several years. So even they will be cautious about adding supply. So yeah, I think it's a fair assessment that no matter what a supply increase number looks like, whether it's 400,000 or 100,000, the group is likely going to lag that.
Well, I'd like to get your take on the outlook. Looking at the dynamics of supply and demand right now, how long do you think we'll see this current situation or crisis persisting? Do you think it's going to be months or years?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And, we've been saying, since, kind of March or April, right, within the first few months of the conflict in the Ukraine breaking out, that Europe in particular was going to face a very challenging environment economically in the second half of this year. And that's been exacerbated by some of their gas supply issues and the cutoff of flows and, with Nord Stream and from Russia. So I think our view now is that that is playing out with regards to the European region. It's looking worse over the next couple of quarters, and that's likely to stretch into next year because it's going to be a very difficult winter there. In the U.S., I think we're seeing kind of a milder recessionary situation, but that is also set to persist over the rest of the year and into early next year because we still have the Fed tightening, we still have the housing market still falling back. And a lot of other, labor and jobs issues to sort through. So we think, again, the rest of this year still looks quite, uncertain and challenged from an economic standpoint. Into early next year, when maybe we can start to see another pickup in economic activity, which of course lower prices, will help that, right? And we've certainly seen a pullback in prices, not just for oil, but for other commodities as well. Of course, the gas market has been a little bit different.
Well, we'll certainly be watching. We do have to leave it there, Mr. Rajendran, but thank you so much for joining us and for those great insights there today.